At the centre of the Sue Gray report, there's a big gaping hole. It relates to an alleged party on the 13th of November 2020 in Johnson's Downing Street flat on the night of the departure of Dominic Cummings. According to reports of the event, it was organised by Carrie Johnson, who was celebrating Cummings being pushed out of his job. The two had been enemies for a while. And witnesses report ABBA's "The Winner Takes It All" was blaring through the corridors of 10 Downing Street. Not particularly subtle, and Prosecco is reported to have flowed. Boris Johnson, crucially, was also in attendance with his wife and multiple advisors. In short, it has all the hallmarks of a rule-breaking party at a time when indoor socialising was banned and should therefore have been a prime target of Gray's investigation. Yet this is all her report had to say about it. Following the announcement of the departure of Dominic Cummings and Lee Cain, a meeting was held in the number 10 flat from sometime after 6 to discuss the handling of their departure. 5 special advisors attended. The Prime Minister joined them at about 8 p.m. Food and alcohol were available. The discussion carried on later into the evening, with attendees leaving at various points. Compared to Sue Gray's account of other events, this is incredibly brief. There is also no mention of Carrie Johnson, even though she was reported to be the party's instigator or the event's instigator. And there is no mention of whether "The Winner Takes It All" was blasted at a volume that could be heard throughout Downing Street. Now, obviously, the point of that song is it showed that this was Carrie Johnson celebrating her nemesis leaving, right? A celebration party. Now, explaining this lack of detail, Sue Gray says, "The information collected on this gathering is limited as the process of obtaining evidence had only just been commenced when the Metropolitan Police announced their own investigations, which included events on the 13th of November 2020. At this point, I stopped my investigation, given the need to avoid any prejudice to the police investigation. Following the Metropolitan Police announcement on the 19th of May 2022, I considered whether or not to conduct any further investigation into this event, but concluded it was not appropriate or proportionate to do so." So this is a little odd. Unlike with the rest of the party, Sue Gray didn't even bother investigating the event. She says it wouldn't have been appropriate or proportionate to do so after police announced that their investigations had ended. But it's not explained why. I presume, probably, what she says, well, if the police didn't think anything went wrong, then it's not for me to investigate that. But she has investigated lots of events where people have done things wrong, where the police didn't find them. And you don't have to be a Tisky Sour viewer to not have much faith in the Metropolitan Police when it comes to this particular investigation. They haven't explained at all, I was about to say in any detail, but they haven't explained at all why they did not consider that party to have broken rules. The absence of details about this party has been noted by many, and in the debate following Sue Gray's publication, Catherine West asked this.
The Prime Minister said that on the 13th of November 2020, the ABBA party he attended briefly. His defence was a job interview. Can he confirm he was only in his flat and he met Henry Newman to discuss a job? And can he confirm what the other special advisors were doing? Were they part of the job interview as well?
So what West was referring to there is a story that came out at the end of April. And back then, the Times reported this. Boris Johnson has claimed that he did not break the law at the ABBA party that was held in his flat because he was interviewing a close friend of his wife about a potential job at number 10. It is said that the Prime Minister invited Henry Newman, then an advisor to Michael Gove, to join him in the number 11 flat where he lives with his wife, Carrie Johnson, and 2 children. That claim has been reported as the reason as to why the Met didn't let Johnson off. Again, that excuse doesn't give any account of why ABBA would be blaring loudly. That doesn't normally happen at a job interview, or why Prosecco would be flowing. Again, unusual for a job interview. No account has been forthcoming from Boris Johnson to answer that question.
Mr. Speaker, that evening was extensively investigated, to the best of my knowledge, and I don't believe I can improve on what Sue Gray has had to say.
Have some ambition. You can't improve on what Sue Gray had to say. She didn't even bother investigating this event. You're supposed to be a journalist. So someone's written down, I don't know anything about this event, but to be honest, I didn't investigate it because it didn't seem appropriate. And then he says, oh, look at the Sue Gray report. I think she's done as good an investigation anyone could do into this, so I will not add to it. This is an unanswered question. One would presume he has more to say than that. He should have more to say than that. He was asked again about it. So later on in Johnson's press conference, the Mirror's Pippa Crerar went in with a forensic question of her own.
Prime Minister, you say that Sue Gray, that no individual gathering was swept under the carpet by Sue Gray, but there was one very striking omission, which was the gathering in your flat on November 13th, 2020, which she started investigating, and then says in her report that she paused when the police started looking at it, and then concluded, after the police closed their investigation, that she wasn't going to carry on that investigation. So in the absence of any other explanation, what were you, your wife, and 5 aides doing for several hours with alcohol and snacks in your flat that evening? Yeah. Specifically, did you or any of your senior political team see her report before this morning and either have any role in editing it or requesting the removal of any facts about gatherings and dining?
No, so the first I saw the report and read it in its entirety was at and to the best of my knowledge, the first time any of my team saw it was at when we got it at 10 o'clock, I think shortly after 10 o'clock this morning.
That's an interesting answer. He's careful to say that the first time he read the report in its entirety was this morning. It doesn't preclude him having read parts of it. And we do know that he called a meeting with Sue Gray and encouraged her not to publish it. He said, well, given the police investigation has happened, why don't you just not publish it? She obviously did, but we don't know if there was any influence which was applied to encourage Sue Gray to decide that it would not be proportionate or appropriate to investigate this particular event. It goes without saying Boris Johnson didn't give any details. He didn't explain why ABBA would have been playing. He didn't explain it and he didn't deny it. That's also important. If he stood up there and said that didn't happen, that would have been notable. But no, he prefers just not to comment. It's not just us who think this looks a little bit like a cover-up. You probably won't be surprised that Dominic Cummings has been fairly noisy today on Twitter. He has said, so, Sue Gray inquiry into ABBA party stopped because police starting. Cops don't investigate. Sue Gray says disproportionate to investigate now. None of those who saw or heard the party were interviewed. And then he says, hashtag how bad cover-ups work, hashtag crime week, and then a meme, move along, nothing to see here. An interesting sort of bit of new information there. Cummings is claiming that none of the witnesses to the ABBA bash were even interviewed. Dahlia, does this smell a little bit fishy to you?
God, Regina Cummings strikes again with his boomer memes. It's certainly an odd omission because the Gray report and an investigation by the Met Police, they're not the same thing. They're not trying to find out the same things. The police are supposed to try to find out, and obviously there are questions about how good a job they did of this, but they are meant to try to find out if there are things that can be prosecuted as criminal acts. Whereas the Sue Gray report is about investigating whether or not activities took place that were not appropriate for a government to undertake in the middle of a pandemic. That might include some criminal acts, but it's not just limited to that. So it can mean a bunch of other things. These are still things that the public absolutely have a right to know, given the crisis of confidence that now exists in the government. And it was absolutely within the remit of Sue Gray to investigate, and she should have investigated them. The omission is a curious one, especially when you not only consider the lack of trust, let's at least to put it nicely, in the Met Police's integrity in reporting and in investigating on this. They seem very cagey about even investigating. I wish they showed more of that caginess when they were deciding to strip search girls at school. But also the fact that the Sue Gray report took so long to come out. It suggests that what we're seeing here is not the full picture, that it is a pale imitation of the full picture, one that has gone through, if not an extensive process of editing, has at least gone through a process of negotiation and bargaining about what exactly the report covers. Obviously, that's all speculation. We don't actually know what has happened behind closed doors. But even that very precise use of language that Boris Johnson used, where he said, I didn't read the report in its entirety until 10 a.m. on whatever day. As you said, that not only doesn't preclude the fact that he might have read parts, but it also doesn't preclude the idea that his team or he himself did not attempt to, and let alone successfully attempt to influence the remit and the depth of that report. So yeah, between all of those different factors, it doesn't give confidence in the process as a whole.
All of us here at Novara Media are working harder than ever to keep scrutinising establishment politicians and the media barons who protect them. We don't have billionaire funders. We don't have advertising partnerships. We're funded entirely by you. If you've ever thought about supporting us, now's the time to go to novaramedia.com/support and donate anything you can from just £1 per month. Defy the corporate media. Join our monthly supporters and help build our supporter base to 10,000 strong.